Hello, Happy New Year and welcome to the final Patreon Unlocked of this year. It's gone so quickly, and if you are gonna miss these videos, then don't worry, because you can head over to patreon.com/oliverpickard and you can get more every single week for the rest of 2025. In fact, you can also get photos and spoilers and find out what's going on in the workshop before anyone else knows. In fact, there's something really cool over there that I've been working on that you can't know about yet because you're not a Patreon. But if you were a Patreon, you'd be able to. All right, without further ado, enjoy. Welcome to exclusive Patreon content. Right.
Welcome.
Question of the week. What is the greatest car ever made?
Oh, that's a tough one. Cause,
Yeah, how do you measure greatness?
Yeah. I don't think I'd have to say Land Rover.
I can say that.
Because it's been on every continent in the world. And there's a huge percentage of them still running.
Yeah, 90% are still running. It's been driven over places on the first car to ever make it over a bunch of deserts.
Darien Gap and
Yeah. It was the first car that 90% of the developing world ever saw. I get that, yeah.
And everybody that's ever owned a Land Rover has ended up being a really good mechanic.
Yeah, so it spawned tens of thousands of excellent mechanics, yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
And it also, as many have been used for military purposes and stuff like that, they've also been used to save lives.
Yeah, aid relief, things like that.
So aid relief, Red Cross, ambulances, fire engines, not just a military vehicle. Yeah, so I can say that. Mine is the Austin 7, right? And it'll take me a minute longer to explain mine than it did yours. But for one, it was the first car with all the pedals in the correct order. The first production car. There was a Cadillac that did it, but they only sold 3 of them. It was a prototype, right? So it was the first one with throttle, brake, clutch. That was a production vehicle. And it absolutely demolished the British motorcycle industry. In fact, it demolished the world motorcycle industry because at the time, Britain made 90% of the world's motorbikes, and afterwards it dropped to something like 20%, 16% or something like that. It was tiny because if you wanted cheap transport, in fact, my grandma and granddad, they used to have a motorbike and sidecar. A bunch of people did, didn't they? Can you imagine putting a baby in a motorcycle and sidecar and thinking that was a good, safe idea? My uncle, literally, I can't believe that. Anyway, so Herb Austin hated motorcycles, hated motorcycle and sidecar, quite rightfully, thought they were dangerous and stupid. Sidecars are, aren't they? Yeah. They're dumb. They're fun, but they're dumb, right? So he went to the head bosses at Austin, who went, "No, Herbert, you're off your mind. No, get out." So then he grabbed a draftsman who was 17-year-old, Stanley Hedge, said, "Come to my house, young man." They lived at his house for three weeks and drew the car on a snooker table. That's why an Austin 7 is the size that it is. He then went back into the bods at Austin and went, "Look, here's the car. I'm making it. You either give me," I think it was £1 or £2 for each car. Yeah.
Which was a lot of money then.
Per car sold, or I will go down the street to Wolseley, which is where I think Herb Austin did his apprenticeship, and I will give the car to them. And they went, "Go on, then." They built the first car in another 3 months or something from beginning to end. Drove the first one round the corner of the factory and the back wheel fell off. Right, typical British, isn't it? But it then went on to change the world because not only did it destroy motorbike production, it was also the first car that Lotus built. Its destruction of motorbike and sidecar manufacturing caused a company called Swallow Sidecar to go bust, which so then they transferred over to making a rebodied Austin 7 with a posh body on. That car company would then become Jaguar, so it spawned Lotus, Jaguar, They were made in France by a company called Rosengart. Rosengart was the man who invented table football. You know, the foosball, American, like, yeah, that table football. And they were made in France. It was the first car company that Germany, it was the first BMW that Germany ever produced. So the BMW Dixie. They were made in America by American Bantam. Yep. They were made in Japan by a company called DAT, and the car was the son of DAT. They didn't actually make them under license, they just nicked the design. But it became the Datsun, and then when Austin went to sue them, they went, okay, then we'll give you money. And so the first ever Datsun was an Austin 7. The Bruce McLaren's first ever racing car was an Austin 7, so Bruce McLaren might never have won races, and we might not have McLaren, so there'd be no McLaren F1. Gordon Murray's first car that he made as a racing car in England was for the 750 Motor Club, yep. Which is Formula 750. He never got to race it, but still, 750 Motor Club wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Austin 7, because they were Austin 7 racing cars. And yeah, so it completely... Oh, and just before the Second World War, there was a British colonel that had made a four-wheel drive Austin 7 for moving artillery about in muddy conditions because they weren't using horses anymore. And it was absolutely superb. And a guy, an American Bantam, heard about this. And American Bantam became Willis, or Willis, depending on where you're from in the world. And Willis then put a contract in for a four-wheel drive, small, reliable vehicle for the American military to use in World War II. And that prototype became the Willis Jeep. So we'd have no Willis Jeep, we'd have no Land Rover, we'd have no Mini, we'd have no Lotus, we'd have no McLaren, we'd have no Jaguar, we'd have no Datsun. I think, okay, Rosengart didn't do much. He sold a load of cars. In fact, they won the first 80 races that they competed in, you know. Mm. And that was their proven, like, thing of this is a new car in France and we're going to sell it, because they were going up against Peugeot and Renault, and I think before World War II, France had 200 different car companies. So you had some pretty stiff competition, and they ended up as like France's 5th biggest car company or something like that. Pretty cool. 2 seconds ago when we were filming, Dad's mowing the lawn, as I'm sure you can hear, but when we were filming, I was talking about Rosengart and how cool Rosengart were, and I completely forgot that the Helicron, which is, you know, the famous car with the propeller on the front, right? The chassis of the Helicron is actually a backwards Rosengart chassis. So even the Helicron is an Austin 7 in reverse. Not the Austin 7's greatest achievement, but still, it's mad, and it's a footnote in the Austin 7's history, and it's yet another reason why it is the greatest car of all time, because of course, being the maddest of all time is also part of being great. But yeah, so Austin 7, greatest car ever made. And if you think you've got a better one, leave it down in the comments below, because I'll be interested in seeing that. Thank you all for watching.
We'll see you in the next video.
See you in the next one. Bye bye.